these thoughts up in my head. Things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here.
I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here. And I know.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I am your host, Ed, and as always, journey with me as we pursue greatness in a world full of chaos. Welcome back. Hope you had a successful week. Things are going well for you, that you're staying focused. Whatever goals you set for yourself, you're going after those things, accomplishing them, and doing the best that you can. As for me and my house, we are chilling, taking everything one day at a time. Just trying to see what each day has, and just, I think for me, more so just trying to be in the moment of watching my kids grow, intentionally, being around my family, spending more time, just trying to make sure that we're all good, and I don't know. We just doing it one day at a time. That's it. That's all I got this week. It's been a rough week. Not in a bad way, just exhaustion and just making sure things are getting lined up just with life and the podcast and all that. So we're working, and we're just taking it one day at a time. That's what we got, and that's what we're gonna keep going with. Hopefully you're taking time to take care of yourself, put yourself in a position to do well, and just take full advantage of what it is that God has been blessing you with. So I hope that from last week, you've been able to kind of keep your focus and maybe take something from that and start building your table and really start seeing what unique gifts and talents that you have that can be beneficial for you, that serve Him, that serve a greater purpose, that help others and things. And if you don't know it yet, that's okay. Take your time. It's one day at a time with this. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not a get rich quick thing. It is a one-step process. You can't advance all the way to the end without taking the steps along the way on the journey that are going to build you into what you need to be. As always, stepping back a little bit, you can always catch us on the socials. We're on Instagram, OverthinkingThoughtsPod, TikTok, OverthinkingThoughtsPod. We're also streaming on Apple Podcasts. We're also on Spotify Podcast. We're on Anchor Podcast, and I totally forgot that I did this. We're also on Google Podcasts. So if you have that app and you're looking for other ways to stream, we're there with Overthinking Thoughts Podcast on those streaming platforms. Obviously, we're on YouTube at Overthinking Thoughts Pod. So I tend to forget the streaming devices and all of that. Shout out to all those that have liked the video, sent a DM, commented on post. I really appreciate you guys. Just reaching out, and it lets me know that it's serving the purpose and we're doing well. Super excited. The very first episode that I ever shot, which was What Are You Waiting For? For me, this is a small victory. I'm at 99 views. I'm gonna be really excited when it reaches 100. Like, it's a small victory for me. I just never thought. I thought, like, when I first did it, 20, 25 was like, if I get it, cool. And then turns out, more people were listening. So as it just lets you know, like, just keep put your content out there. Don't worry about how many views you get or how many followers you have or how many subscribers you get. Focus on what's meant for you. Focus on your tools and your talents, and just keep going. And that's it. That's all we can do. So once again, we take it one day at a time and just try to do the best with what we have, and just keep focusing on the journey that's in front of us. So hopefully stay encouraged to keep doing your best, and one day at a time. When it happens, it happens. And when it manifests into what it's supposed to be, you'll know. And it's an indescribable joy that you'll have that lets you know you're right where you need to be. So I want you to stay encouraged on that. Today, we're going to talk about something that can be encouraging, but can also be not devastating, but we definitely face this in life. This episode was inspired by two people. One, a former player that I coached, and the other one who is in his final year in college playing ball. We had a conversation a while back about just like staying focused and things. And so the title of this episode is called Comeback Season. And it doesn't just have to relate to sports, it can relate to life in general. I think it's fair to say for the majority of us, well, not the majority of us, but for a lot of us, it seems like 2022 started off pretty solid, and then there were just a lot of things that just, yeah, it just didn't, it left a sour taste in our mouth, per se. You might have had some setbacks. You might have lost a job. I know a lot of people lost a lot of loved ones, people that were very close to them and their families, and you know, things changed, and now you're having to change the routine of life, which is something that we never really expect. We expect that we're just going to live forever, and then when these things happen, we have to figure out, well, how do we now adjust to that? So that could have happened. Or something that you really loved was taken away from you, or something happened to where the normal routine of life, of getting up and going through the motions and then getting to that thing that you love to do, for whatever reason now has you're on the sideline watching everything happen, wondering, okay, when do I get back to that point? Am I going to get back to that point? And we'll elaborate more into that a little bit, but these two particular young men who are excellent at what they do just made me think more about being able to bounce back from difficult situations or things that just kind of arise on our journey. Like, we know that not everything is going to be perfect. I hope you know that not everything is going to be perfect. There's going to be some trials. There's going to be some things that test you. The test is what defines your true character. And your character is what's going to help you arrive at situations that many people may not expect you to be in, but you'll be able to handle it the right way because the adversity has built you into a champion rather than a person who's going to run away from, you know, the challenge or run away from setbacks that could have easily been defeated if we would have just stayed the course and trust the process, right? So another thing too with setbacks, depending on how difficult they can be, what happens to a lot of us is that little voice in our head, the self-doubt voice, where we start to wonder, man, am I ever going to be what I used to be? Or am I going to be able to get back and people are going to see me for what I used to be rather than where I'm at now? Because a lot of times when people not fall off, but let's say, get injured or they were top of the food chain and let's say in a corporation or a job or whatever, and now they got to start over. It's like, do I have that same drive that I had before? In some cases, did I take where I was for granted? Did I not really appreciate what was given to me? Or was it, man, I did everything I was supposed to do and I was going through and working hard and I just can't figure out why something like that was taken away from me? I think a perfect example of that is if you know who the motivational speaker Inky Johnson is. Now, Inky Johnson was a football player at Tennessee who was balling. And then just one day he had a bad accident. I believe it's his right arm, maybe? I think it's his right arm. That's like paralyzed. So he wears a sleeve. He's got like permanent nerve damage or something like that. And he wanted to play. He wanted to get back and play football. And through self-determination, analyzing who he was, his faith, you watched him go from not being a football player, but being to one of the most prolific motivational speakers that are in the game today. And the energy that he used on the football field is now put it to the talent of being that motivational speaker. And he's been all over the place as far as talking to different schools and teams and corporations and things, and just his attitude, you would never know. If you just saw him talking, you'd be like, man, dude is great. But then when you hear his story, it just shows you just how much his purpose was fulfilled. He thought he was going to give it all on the football field, but he's still out making a difference. He's influencing the athletes, right? So that's It doesn't always look the way that you want it to go, but it can still be fulfilled if you stick with your purpose. But the one thing that we can't do is allow the setback to take us to a place where we dig ourselves a hole and we can't get out of it. Because sometimes that leads to the overthinking. Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? The anxiety of wondering what if. A darker place, depression, where everything just seems like it can't go right and everything gets dark and there's no light that's in front of you. And, unfortunately, we've seen situations where people fall into dark depression and some of them are no longer here with us. They didn't see everything in front of them. And so what ends up happening is that depression starts to lie to you. And it tells you what you think you are, or what you think you are, in the sense of like, you'll never be this. You don't have people that care. You'll never get back to this. You have to eliminate doubt immediately. Whenever you hear that voice start to speak to you about what you aren't, you have to step back and realize what you are. Look at your accomplishments. Look at the things that you've done. Look at the things that have gone well. Look, not everybody's perfect. Jordan wasn't perfect. He had one of the best teams in the NBA. They still lost 10 games. Golden State had a 73-9 record. They blew a 3-1 lead. Perfection is not the standard. Learning who you are, defining your character, trusting in who God has made you to be, that is the ultimate piece of becoming who you are as a person. Don't use the accolades to necessarily define you. Look at those things, but then pull from that the characteristics that you use to get there. My strength, my faith, my belief, my hard work, my willingness to never give up. Those are the things that got you there. Utilize those things, because those tools, the tools that are going to help build that table, are also going to be the tools that are going to help you overcome this season of setback. And so as we go through that, a lot of times we will sit there and go, man, why me? Why do I have to deal with this? Why is it me? I'm watching everybody else and I was doing this right and I was going the right path. Why me? Why is it me? I challenge you to say, why not you? What if you are so phenomenal that the setback that you're facing right now is actually the inspiration for everybody around you to watch how you come out of this more successful than you can ever imagine? But you got to speak it. You got to believe it. You got to trust it. So that takes me to this particular person that I coached. Great basketball player. I remember his freshman year, he was a little bit everywhere. But the determination to learn, to not quit, to want to get better, it really showed his next year, his sophomore year. He grew into a very important piece of the team. And I thought that watching him progress, that he could easily be, if he stays focused and he continues to work and get better, he could easily be one of the top players that comes out of that program. Now, here's where things get a little situational. So he was playing, I think it was soccer as well. It was a freak accident where he got injured to the point where a lot of people weren't sure what was going to happen. I don't want to get too deep into his details because that's his personal story and I don't want to dive out of respect for him. But it was a pretty gruesome injury, and we were wondering, like, man, how is he going to recover? Is he going to make it back? Long story short, he's made a full recovery. There's still some things. So he had to sit out the basketball season, and that's his sport. And he had hit me up through DM, and he's like, man, I've been watching the podcast, and I was wondering if you could talk about that because, I'm just like, I feel so helpless. Like, this is what I used to do. And I was really, really good at it. And I was working at it. And I was doing the thing. I was listening to my coaches. I was practicing outside, like going outside of practice hours and working on individual things so I could be a better basketball player for myself and for the team. But now, like, I'm in this situation. How do I overcome that, right? And, and talking with my other good friend who's playing college ball. You know, he's like, man, I'm just overthinking so much. Like, I'm trying to make this, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. I'm worrying about if I make a mistake or if this happens or that happens. And it's like, I go back and look at when they weren't overthinking so much and they were just doing what they normally do. Like, both of these people, respectfully, were great, and they still are great. But I think in every person's journey, there does come that time when there's something that happens or some moment that makes us kind of stop, and we're like, I don't know if am I gonna, like you start thinking it in your mind, and then the anxiety hits and your chest starts to tighten up and your mind starts overthinking so much, and it becomes a part of what you think is your identity, and it's not, and it shouldn't be, because your doubts are not your identity. This false notion of oh, I'm a failure, that's not your identity, okay? You were made in God's image. And that's the ultimate victor, because when the world thought he was dead, he defeated death. So if he can defeat death, what makes you think that he can't use you to be a blessing for somebody else? Or as my freshman high school basketball coach says, the chosen vessel. If you know, you know. It's a long story, but we might get into that. But you might be a vessel for somebody else, and your comeback story just might be the seed that is planted in that person's mind that allows them to have that faith that they can continue on as well. Because a lot of people are out here fighting silent battles that they don't tell everybody, and so you never know who's watching. So how you carry yourself as you're coming through, how you conduct yourself when adversity hits, like, people watch that. And to both of these young men, respectfully, I would say, man, I'm watching, and I see the growth, and I've seen how far you both have come, and I'm proud, because you could have quit, you could have given up, you could have let doubt interfere, but you're hungry and you want to do so much, and that's what I love, because I know your determination and your focus are going to get you to exactly where God wants you to be. I know that. I truly believe that. But you got to believe it too, right? Like, you can't be your own worst critic. Sometimes everybody else will see the good in us, and all we can see is all the mistakes, all the doubts, all the guilt, all the failures, all the times we thought we were doing well, and then we tripped and fell, and we had to start over. Like, that's all we see. And we never take the time to truly appreciate what we've done. I'm not saying do it in a conceited way of like, well, look at me. I did this and I did that, and I'm above everybody else. No. Never be conceited in what you do. But be confident and humble. Be confident that you have the tools necessary to be successful, but also be humble enough to know that anything can happen, and don't get too cocky above anybody else. Stay true to yourself. Stay humble in your work. And as long as you do those things, you will continue to be successful. But we can't, it's a difference in reflecting and critiquing. Like, if you look back at something and reflect on it, and you're like, man, I wish I could have done a little bit better. Okay, that's different. Like, because then you're like, all right, this is what I did wrong, but here's where I can go. Whereas when you start critiquing, you're like, man, I did that wrong. Oh my God, like, and then we become, that coach that nobody likes, where all they do is yell. There's never a good moment. You're afraid you're going to mess up. You're afraid that every time you get in, if you shoot and you miss, you're coming right back out. Like that. We can't have that lingering over us. So it's so important to speak life and speak positive. Like I try to tell my son, like, if things don't work out, like, okay, it wasn't meant for you this time. But when it's your time, nothing's going to stop that. When it's your time to shine, when God says, okay, you're ready. You kept your faith, you stayed strong, you're ready. However long it takes, when it's your time, it'll be a shine that's so divinely great that people are going to know. They might not be able to explain it, but when they see you, they're just going to know, like, that's a person who took what they had and made the best out of it. I mean, it even says so, like, we have to be very aware of, as we go through this journey of what we're doing and how blessed we truly are, even when we do face setbacks. In the Bible, in Romans 5:3-5, it says this. I made sure I wrote it down so I could give it to you. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Hope does not put us to shame. God's love is poured out into us. Yeah, it didn't work out this way, but there might be this path that you're going to walk now, and it's going to look weird, and it's not going to be familiar, and you might be uncomfortable, and you're like, God, is this, like, I was doing so well in this position, and yet at the end of the day, God's like, I got you covered. Stay faithful. God knows what you want. It's in your heart. Stay determined. This whole thing, like, it's your time to shine. Like, 2022 might have been a bad year. 2023 is the year to now build yourself, focus on you, figure out what's the best thing for you to do. You might have been trying to please everybody else or trying to come back for other people, but, like, it's not going to matter if you don't do it for yourself. Invest in you. It's not a selfish thing. I think it's the best thing is self-care. Analyze what you need. Build yourself. Utilize the skills you have. Reach out to others who maybe possess things that you need. And get yourself, for lack of better words, rehab yourself into getting back to the person that you were, but also allowing yourself to propel past that. Because I think that, settling for just what we think we should be when there's so much more out here in the world, why wouldn't we chase that? And I hope I'm not sounding too, like, contradictory. I feel like I'm all over the place, but I guess my biggest thing for you to know is, like, if you fail, you're not going to stay down. The first step of success is getting back up. You trip and fall and you're in a stumbling block, don't keep yourself there. Don't bury yourself there. Because then you're going to have to work on moving all of that stuff off of you to even stand up. That made me think of something, and I'm going to look it up while I'm talking to y'all, because I want to make sure that we stay focused on the goal. We all got goals, and we all have beliefs, and we all have things that we want to chase after, right? So, I think it's important for us to continue to keep moving forward, because God's got stuff for us. I just think that we got a lot of stuff that we can accomplish. Oh, I gotta find it. I have to give you this. Oh, where is it? Oh, here it is. All right. So in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 13. I used to struggle with this and trying to figure out what this meant, but I think I have an idea. So in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10, it talks about putting on full armor of God and protecting yourself, right? And allowing yourself to fully be engulfed in what he has for you, but then also the armor that he provides you with on a daily basis. And the best part about this is going in this word, you're able to see this every single day, and it's kind of like getting dressed. Like every day you can put this armor on to be protected. But there's a point that I wanted to put out there, and it's verse 13. It's chapter 6, verse 13 in Ephesians that says, "Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything, to stand." In other words, do your best to stand your ground. And everything that comes at you, keep standing. Don't let it defeat you. Don't let it take you down. Don't let it define who you are. Keep standing. Because you keep standing, it lets the enemy know that they can't defeat you. And in the case of these two young men, for my college senior, you've seen what it's like. You've been through it. You've worked so hard to get to where you at. Keep standing. And to my former player, what I would tell you is simple. You've been dealt a hand, but treat it like Inky Johnson says this. Treat that hand like it was meant, like you were meant to have that hand. Use this as your motivation to bounce back. You've been blessed to be able to recover, and the road is gonna be a little tough. There's gonna be some things you have to do, but you got a team of people that support you. I know you got coaches that support you. You got family that supports you. People want to see you back on that court. So whenever you start to, because I know this will come up, whenever you start to doubt it, what I would tell you is remember the goal and never lose sight of that, and just keep working toward that. If it's meant for you to be back, it's going to happen. And it's going to be a beautiful thing when it happens. But there's a plan for you, and you will be successful. I can guarantee you that. I know the type of person you are. I know your character. So I know you're going to be great. And I truly believe that. And I want you to know that. Like, I'm super proud of you. So I just want to put that out there. And for all of you out there who, I had to make that one personal because I want to make sure that he knows that I hear him and I'm listening to him. But for you all, as far as our where we are, there's two quotes that Inky Johnson, who we talked about earlier, put out that I thought were very beneficial to what we're talking about today. He said, redirection, pain, setbacks, shortcomings, highs, lows, they're all a part of the process of success. Embrace it, respect it, and trust it. And then when we do all those things, he then says, someday you'll look back and understand why it all happened the way it did. We have a picture-perfect plan of how things should happen, but we all know it doesn't always work that way. But we got to continue to believe in ourselves. This is your comeback season. This year is your comeback season. People counted you out. That's fine. Let them count. You sitting on the sideline patiently waiting for your turn to get back in. Stay patient. Keep learning. Stay focused, because there's something out there for you. People never think you'll get back to where you need to be. That's all right. Your path isn't meant for them. This is your path. And your story will be the testimony that people need and go, wow, they can make it through that. I know I can get there. You're inspiring people every single day, whether you know it or not. If 2022 kicked you down and you were blessed enough to see 2023, then that clearly means that there's a purpose. If you still breathing, there's purpose. You still got blood flowing through you, there's purpose. You got a voice. You can hear, you can see, you can write, you can talk, you can sing, you can dance, you can move, you can influence others, whatever the case may be, there's a purpose for you. And this is the year where you fulfill that purpose and you do it to the best of your ability. It's your comeback season. Have a warrior spirit. Well, in this case, have a cavalier spirit, because when they were down 3-1, they came back. It's a Cleveland thing. If you're not from Cleveland, you wouldn't understand. But it's fun for me. Anyway, at the end of the day, it's comeback season. Stay focused. Start building that table. All right? And just know that once it's fully designed and you got all your pieces together and you're trusting and you're following that path, you got it. You got it. All right? It's time, man. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner. So, as always, if you need me, holla at me. You can always DM me. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on TikTok. OverthinkingThoughtsPod. Hit the subscribe button and the like buttons on YouTube over at OverthinkingThoughtsPod. Also, once again, streaming on Anchor, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So, trying to make this thing global. As always, I appreciate the support. Thank you to all my new followers and those who have watched the videos, commented, liked it, favored it. I appreciate every single one of you. So, there's not much else to say. I hope this motivated you. And I feel like sometimes I'll be rambling, but I try to make a good point. I hope you got something out of it. And as always, at the end of the day, just know this. I believe in you. Now go believe in yourself, all right? It's the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm Ed. We out.
These thoughts up in my head. things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here.
I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here.